Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having us. My name is Kevin Gowan. This is my partner, Nydia Navarro. We're detectives with Oregon Police Department. We're very excited and honored to be here today. Something that we come across very frequently is scams and frauds throughout the community. And we try and formulate and investigate these that we best we possibly can to help protect people from these types of things. One of the things that Nydia and I have spoken about extensively is, and we've been big proponents of that, is we want to do community outreach to educate and empower you guys. So that's the purpose of this presentation today. It's a very complex topic in general, and there's a lot to cover. We're going to try and go as fast as we can, but always available for questions afterwards. We have our contact information. We have some resource lists for you guys because it's so extensive on what steps you can take to better protect yourself at the end of the presentation. If we don't have enough copies, we will certainly get them to you. Nydia, anything else?
No, that's the gist of it. Thank you for having us all, and hopefully you find this insightful.
And I thought I was getting a refund.
Oh yeah, you should.
$300 for a headlight?
Yeah. Oh, that's secret.
That is.
See, they hide us behind desks, so that's why that complaints up with other people. Okay. So just a quick bio about myself. Again, my name is Kevin Gowan. I've been a police officer with Oregon PD since 2015. Held a lot of different roles throughout that time. Patrol officer. I worked in the school for a little bit. A field training officer, training other officers. Evidence technician, and then eventually became a detective in, that's not right, 2020. I also possess several investigative certifications from an entity called the National White Collar Crime Center. Currently a certified cybercrimes investigator, certified cybercrimes intelligence analyst, certified cybercrime examiner, and certified economic crime forensic examiner. So this is really my niche and my passion, and I've done my best to try and teach her everything I know, and she's going to be a lot better at it than I am. So.
Well, let's hope. Kevin has a passion for it. I don't, but I'm learning. So I'm Nydia, detective here in Oregon as well.
Some things didn't save on here.
Some things didn't say my name. A little bit about myself. I've been a police officer since 2015 as well. I've been in Oregon for 5 years. I began as a patrol officer on second shift, field trainer as well to train others, and now detective for going on 2 years. I work alongside Kevin. I prefer general crimes to deal with people. Most times he prefers financial crimes because a lot of nerd work. That's not me, that's Kevin. So we'll get into that today.
So just kind of a quick outline of things that we're going to go over. Again, I apologize. We've been kind of working cases hand in hand this morning. But just some things that we're going to go over are check fraud, theft by contractor, and so on and so forth. A lot of those common things that you're going to see and you're interacting with, and you're getting these random phone calls or text messages or emails, and we're going to kind of dive into those things a little bit today. So this is just an outline for you guys. Again, with questions, time for questions at the end of the presentation as well, okay? So first off, we're going to look at who defrauds who's targeted. In general, it's anyone. I mean, myself included, I got text messages this morning about how to claim my prize and click on a link and call this number. You're going to get those, right? The biggest thing that we have to get in front of with this and what we're trying to push is the education not to communicate with them. If you do not communicate with them or if you don't click on links, you severely increase the likelihood that you will not fall victim to a fraud, okay? So that's what we're really going to push. But we're seeing a large emphasis on defrauding the senior population. Why? Technology is utilized so commonly throughout your everyday life, and there are a lot of evolving trends and tactics and platforms and communications that they utilize, and virtual currencies now, in order to defraud people. So they're aiming towards a general population that doesn't grasp it as well as the younger population in this situation. And so what we're trying to strive to do is to provide you guys with as much information in a short period of time to kind of help you understand why they're targeting, how they're targeting, and what are some of these schemes that they use, okay? Anything else?
Yep, and what you can do to prevent this from happening to you and your family and your friends.
So who are the suspects? You know, there are a lot of situations. I've worked a lot of fraud investigations and held people accountable where we know the suspect or the victim knows the suspect throughout my career. However, a large majority of our frauds that we're seeing today, the suspects are unknown, and we have various investigative tactics that we utilize to unmask who they are and where they are. And I'll kind of educate you on some of the challenges at some point in time. But a lot of these people that we are fighting to try and protect people's assets and money is individuals utilizing the dark web and deep web users. That's a term that people hear, and we're not going to dive too much into it. But they get and extract individuals' information, personal identification information in those ways, as well as overseas organized criminal entities too, which is a major challenge that everybody in law enforcement and everyone is facing in general, and they're being defrauded an extremely large amount of money on a frequent basis. So that's just kind of an overall view.
Yeah, so just facts, statistics really quickly. Billions of dollars are lost yearly from victims such as you or me in these financial schemes. So Kevin and I, working here in Oregon, we now want to take more of a victim-centered approach, meaning let's educate you, try to prevent this, be more proactive so that we don't have an increased number of these types of scams. So that's what brings us here today.
So first off, like we said, you know, how many people here, raise your hand, got a phone call or have a text message or an email saying that, you know, you either won something or someone's in trouble or you got to click this link, right? Right? Anything and everybody, right? Everybody, you know. They're very creative. This is what they do for a professional living, and they make an immense amount of money doing it, defrauding individuals. So again, the communication is, if you sever the communication with this individual or do not interact with them, that's how you mitigate things on the forefront for the most part. Now, there's always other caveats, of course, but cutting off that communication is what's most pertinent in this situation. So things that you're going to see those unfamiliar phone numbers. We call those voice over internet protocol phone numbers. Basically, the suspect is hooked up to internet connection, utilizing any phone number that they want, interchanging those numbers at some point in time to keep individuals guessing, and then they use that to communicate with you, okay? They're going to use encrypted platforms. Who here has Facebook? Right, so Facebook Messenger is what's called an encrypted platform. It's owned and operated by the same company that owns called WhatsApp, another end-to-end encryption platform. What that means is the only individuals that are able to see what you're talking about are you, the sender, and the receiver. Us investigators, we're not even able to see that with our investigative tactics that we utilize. So that's why if you're talking to someone on an unfamiliar phone number and they tell you to switch the conversation over to WhatsApp, that's an immediate red flag to know not to communicate with this person, okay? So those are just a couple of different companies that offer those services. We've also seen in work cases, and we currently are working cases where intercepted email correspondence is happening. Someone's contacting a company for a legitimate purpose, and the suspects are posing as a representative of that company, providing that victim with instructions to either wire or send money to the suspect account to defraud them. So that's something that we're actively fighting right now too. Phishing, again, we talk about click this link, click this email. That can happen in text message or email communication. So what we're always going to tell you guys is be cautious when accepting phone calls from unfamiliar phone numbers. And be cautious when you're opening unfamiliar email addresses from an unknown email sender too.
And if you might be expecting a phone call or an email, it's something you're looking forward to getting, and then something looks similar to that, you can always contact the real entity, like your doctor for instance, and say, hey, did you send an email? I received an email from this agency today, and they can let you know whether, yes, it's a legit email or it's a scam email. You don't have to click on it and move forward and feel like you have to because you're working on something in particular. I hope that makes sense. That's it.
So now we're just going to go into a couple of different fraudulent schemes that we are commonly seeing, okay? So we talk about check frauds. Check frauds are certainly prevalent. We've investigated a large number of them. Right now, currently, that's not the biggest trend that we're seeing, but just a little bit of information about it is fake check scams. We've seen a lot of these where The suspect will communicate with the victim, and they will send them a check, whether that's in the mail, whatever means that they get that check to them. That is actually a forged check belonging to another victim. And so when the victim attempts to cash that check at the bank and they're communicating with these individuals, now the victim, they get flagged for trying to cash a fraudulent or stolen check, which is going to cause more issues with their accounts, holdups with canceling things, potentially, and just unwanted hoops and hoops to jump through, basically. But then the suspect will communicate with them, inform them, hey, sorry that happened, we're working on it on our end. Here's the deal, we are obviously going to give you this $10,000. What you need to do right now is you front the $10,000. As soon as you give us that, then we'll clear it back and get you double that money. It's too good to be true, right? It's not going to happen, right? But people utilize logic and emotion and relationship building in order to lower levels skeptical features. So that's exactly what they're doing in these situations. Stolen checks, we've had it before where checks have gotten stolen out of the mail. Those ones are difficult to work with. We work with the U.S. Postal Inspector's Office on those too. They provide us a little bit more additional resources too. But we certainly have seen those. And they're pretty straightforward as far as what happened. And those ones we're typically able to identify suspects more readily. Check washing is basically criminals altering or changing or forging checks after they receive it. So whether that's they change the amount, change the who the check's payable to, things of those natures. That's just kind of an overview of those. Anything? So we're gonna go over some how to say safety suggestions here. If you can, people certainly pay things with checks. I know my parents certainly still do. But avoid checks if you can, and have a loved one assist you or a family member or friend to set up those automatic payments in a safe manner. If you're communicating with someone, there's no issue communicating with an individual who you're very close with to make sure that you're safe. I know I still assist my parents with this. I still assist family members with this to try and make sure that we're taking steps that we can mitigate our exposure to fraud. So that's something that you can do. You can also physically take your check to the post office. It's a little bit more safer than putting it out in your residential mailbox. In addition to that, continue to monitor your bank accounts and communicate with the bank and law enforcement if you observe anything suspicious when you're looking at your financial statements as well. Never deposit a check from someone you don't know. In those check schemes that we talked about, it's always going to be coming from a person that the victim has never met before. So that right there is another red flag just for you guys to be aware of, okay? Other safety precautions is shred old checks and bank documents. Don't just throw them away or recycle them. Again, if it happens to you, you're going to hear this repeatedly throughout this presentation. Contact law enforcement in your bank immediately. And when you contact your bank, you can tell them to place alerts on your account. And it will freeze your other accounts, and we can assist by providing additional resources and working hand in hand if it's a mail fraud with the U.S. Postal Inspector's Office with their diverse level of resources that they have, okay? So theft by contractor, we work these certainly. This is a verbal or contractual agreement for, made with the contractor for an improvement of property. We've seen these where someone either wants a basement done or maybe a patio, and they hire someone and they come to like a verbal agreement, which is difficult for us to complete this work, within this date, and these amount of payments will be put in place on this date. And basically, the contractor mismanages the money and the project never gets done. So we've certainly seen these things. So. These are really challenging cases to work, and Nydia, you can attest to this.
I have one now.
Yes.
Very intricate, very detailed,
that
complex.
I gave you, yes. You're doing great on it. But it's challenging because it often borderlines on civil as opposed to criminal. So we have to really analyze the contract and the totality of the circumstances to identify if this is actually civil or criminal in nature. So that's for us to worry about. By all means, we would rather get a report and look into it and see if there's anything we can do about it as opposed to just tell you it's a civil issue, okay? So some things to keep yourself safe. Seek out contractors who are reputable through personal references with relationships that you have with people. Better Business Bureau and Angie's List are something that people utilize to find credible contractors as well. Do your research on the company. You know, by no means am I saying that you know, these entities right here are the best to fact check your contractor that you're looking at hiring, but they're just resources to give you tools on your tool belt in this situation. Have a very organized and detailed written contract. We have ran into issues with verbal contracts. Yes, we have worked them, but they are extremely challenging to prosecute, and they're extremely challenging if you were to go to trial for them too. So really have your documentation very thoroughly organized for us, okay? Have the contract reviewed by an attorney if at all possible, or a trusted individual to make sure that there's no loopholes in it and things are secure, and that your best interest is being sought. And if you're suspecting of it, contact us. And again, we would rather have you report something than never get reports of it at all. Nydia and I can, you know, attest to so many of these frauds not being reported at all or in a timely manner, which really puts us behind the ball when we're investigating and trying to get people's money back. Okay?
Right. We'll go over certain schemes coming up, but certain schemes you have to contact us within 24 hours so that we can at least try to get your money back or freeze it in the suspect's account. But again, it might be embarrassing that you fell victim to this, but do not worry about that. Just call us and we can talk you through it to see if there's something we can do to help you out, for sure.
And again, the reason the reason that they're so successful on this is they prey on logical decision making and relationship building. You know, so that is why it happens to doctors, lawyers, police officers. It happens to anybody and everybody. So just do us a favor, because we want to try and help you get your money back. If this happens to someone, to yourself or someone you care about or know, encourage them to contact us right away so that we can do whatever we can to try and help. Okay? Credit and debit cards. I don't know if anybody's ever gotten a communication here. That's the next slide. Credit and debit cards, again, you're going to get those calls, text messages, enter your credit card information. You have this bill to pay for cybersecurity protection that's expired on your computer. You know, don't enter those things. Make sure that you're extremely selective with who you provide your information to in general. But again, these are mainly preying off of obtaining the credit card numbers, whether that's over the phone, over the email, send a picture of it, whatever it may be. So these ones, they're prevalent for sure, but we try and stay ahead with, you know, interactions with individuals that we take calls for service with to try and help them get ahead of the curve. So we're seeing this less frequently. Yeah. I think our officers are doing a really good job educating people about these types of schemes. So we have seen a reduction in this one, but it's still always going to be prevalent. You know, if it's lost or stolen, cancel that card right away. You know, people will use cards that they recover. We have seen that in our line of work, most certainly. Online fraud too. A lot of the websites that we're going to, they have cybersecurity infrastructures. So if you go to a small kind of startup company's website, the cybersecurity infrastructure may not be as strong as like an Amazon or something like that, which leaves it susceptible to someone hacking that information and getting your credit card information. So in situations and circumstances like that, we suggest that you utilize a reputable credit card company. There's a couple of different companies that are on the next slide here. But just be really mindful of, you know, what you're shopping online for, where you're going, and what kind of credit card or form of payment that you're utilizing, okay? So again, the biggest thing with this is going to be you guys screening out that communication, those phone calls, text messages, Facebook Messenger we've seen Facebook's overtaken by suspects to communicate and pose as someone that they know. So for example, let's say Nydia and I know each other. Suspect takes over my account, communicates with Nydia posing as me, and then they defraud the person in that capacity. So we have seen that too. But again, cancel those credit cards right away. Never give your credit card information over the phone. Be cautious on purchasing items through those smaller companies and everything like that. Do your research. And there's a couple different credit card options right there. Like I know I have Discover Card because they have really good fraud protection. You know, again, not a moniker for you guys to go get any of these cards. These are just some of them that are available that provide a little bit more additional fraud protection for you, okay? And again, contact your bank immediately and law enforcement. Cancel the card. Coordinate with your bank to place holds on your accounts and alerts, okay? So cash applications, we've seen a large uptick with these. Nydia, you can attest to that as well. They're utilizing applications such as PayPal, Zelle, Venmo, you know, and this money is challenging for us to recover because the money is mobilized immediately. And so it goes from our victim right to our suspect's account. That suspect then can make an instant withdrawal, and now they're home scot-free with the money. And when we are working these, we see a large amount of times that they're coming back to individuals that are actually overseas, most likely associated with these organized crime syndicates too, okay? So while we're able to identify the suspect, we're not able to prosecute them because they don't live in our country or our state even.
Right.
Which are challenges that we're facing is we've identified the person, but it's not either actually them or they're overseas.
Absolutely.
So again, they're going to have you try and send the payment over these platforms. These platforms are not going to reimburse you for falling victim to a fraud scheme. They just won't. We've worked extensively with them. We've had very, what I thought, heartfelt conversations with their fraud specialist teams. And it's not that they don't care. It's just the company in itself. If those overt actions are taken by an individual to send money to another place, they're just not going to reimburse you guys, okay? And neither will your bank. So
They consider it a willing participant, and so you gave consent by doing this. So it's challenging to get your money back at that point.
yeah, so it's a challenge that we're running into. And again, it's not that the people that work for these companies are not empathetic to the situation, but their hands are tied in certain situations as well. Also can be utilized for major purchases too. So those are just things too. If someone's asking you to try and pay for, you know, a vehicle over Zelle or, you know, PayPal or Venmo, that's a scam. Okay, 1000% a scam, okay? So again, if you use them and you're not familiar with them, work with a loved one to try and help you, you know, review the transaction to make sure that it's legitimate. But again, I caution people when utilizing these cash application platforms because that money, once it's gone, okay? If you're suspicious of any requested transaction, cease communication with the individual immediately. Again, that's going to be over your phone call, text message, Facebook Messenger, social media, whatever it may be, okay? Again, major purchases, always coordinate with your bank about the safest way to go about things. You know, it's never a good idea. We utilize collaboration on a daily basis just for whether it's work problems or personal problems, right? So if you're going to make a major purchase, coordinate with the individuals who are important with your life to go over the dynamics of it, you know, and then make an informed decision and work with your bank and go about it with the best safety suggestions that your bank can also provide to you too, okay? So again, just coordinate with those individuals, utilize those resources, collaborate to make those informed decisions, and always just kind of be on guard here, okay? So scareware or extortion frauds, this is the one where, I don't know if anybody's ever received one of these. You know, you owe the money, you owe the IRS money, you have a warrant out for your arrest. And I think that we've done a good job as a general public in trying to push out as much education as we can about these types of schemes, is they're not legitimate, right? They want to scare you into providing personal identification information or credit card information or banking account information, and that's their main goal, is to extract that information from you so that they can defraud you. On top of that, again, I've seen this one too. Again, your computer software is outdated and you need an updated security software. Allowing either access to your personal identification information or your computer in itself, which we're not going to touch on extensively today at all. But again, these are the things in the outside the box ways that they're trying to extract information to defraud you guys, okay? And again, they play on emotion. We've seen some very creative situations where people use artificial intelligence platforms to try and dupe the victim, basically. You know, they're very, very creative with how they scare people. You know, and that's just, these are things that we're seeing regularly.
Right, right. And with the extortion portion of this, they will try their hardest to get anything out of you. So say they do have a sensitive photo, or whatever it may be on your phone, they have it now. They say, pay me $200, I won't release this. Please do not do that, because once you give them a little nugget, they're gonna keep asking for more. Just don't do that. Contact us right away.
They will never stop
No.
as soon as you give them anything. They will try and take you for everything that you're willing to give them, or you
Right.
can give them. It does not matter. So if that happens, again, contact us immediately. And again, I'm just gonna filter on the communication portion again. Social media accounts, you're seeing a lot of them gain information from your social media accounts. So if your account is not on private, if you have Facebook, switch your account to private, because these fraudsters are looking at your accounts. They're sending pictures to the victim saying, I know who your son is, I know who your daughter is, utilizing emotion to scare them. So please, by all means, make sure if you do have social media accounts, you're regularly changing your password, and you're also keeping your account private, because that restricts some of the access that that suspect could potentially have to utilize in one of these scare tactics that they use, okay? Again, guys, don't release any personal information over the phone. Always go in person. If you receive a phone call that's you know, frightening or anything like that, and communication, contact us immediately, okay? Gift card frauds. Anybody get any
This is a
calls about
prevalent
gift
one.
cards?
This is a prevalent one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this happens to anyone and everyone, like we talked about. My wife called me a couple years ago, and she goes, hey, I got a phone call from my boss. He wants me to go in and buy $1,200 worth of iTunes gift cards in Walmart real quick. I'm going to go in. I'm like, don't go in.
Yeah.
So they happen to anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
You know, so again, it's someone posing as maybe an individual that you know, or from a company or something like that. They get creative with their tactics, but what they want you to do is to give them the card information, whether that's to read it over the phone, take pictures of it, and then they'll either utilize those credit card numbers to buy certain things from that company or to sell those later at another time for actual money. So that's just what they do.
You know, if they only applied themselves to finding an actual career, they might get pretty far in life, right? But no, their career is scamming us. So
Yeah.
be ahead of it. That's what we're helping you
Yeah.
to do today.
They get creative.
Very creative.
So again, the communication component of this is, if you guys take anything away from this today, is stop communication, notify law enforcement, notify your bank, okay? Those are the biggest things that we are trying to push out to you. Cease
Right.
communication, contact law enforcement, notify your bank, okay? So again, just hitting on that again, do not make any purchases of these gift cards. This is always a scam.
Always.
There's
Always.
nothing legitimate. And
No.
you can attest to that as well. So this one's a very damaging fraud, and we've seen it prevalent in our community, and I've worked and led investigations with this, and actually just gave one to you.
Yeah.
Um,
over 200,000
yeah.
is my victim right now. That's a lot of money.
So this is scary stuff, and basically it's utilized for major purchases, whether that be land, a house, or a vehicle, or an investment opportunity. And what they do is they'll intercept communication, whatever form and way that they do. I've seen it in a variety of ways, whether it's an individual posing as a representative of a company that this person's legitimately working with, or if it's just some random person saying, hey, I got this awesome opportunity for you, or I have this land right here, you can't get it at a price lower than this type of deal. So they lure you in with those things. But these are similar to the cash applications. That money is mobile and it is fluid. So as soon as you are authorizing that wire transaction, you'll have to sign some type of form with your bank, basically stating that they're not liable if the money goes to the wrong place or if you're defrauded. A lot of the times, I'm not speaking I want to make a disclaimer. I don't work for a bank, okay? I'm a cop. So I just want to make that abundantly clear. But a lot of those things, those are safety mechanisms that the financial institutions have instilled in their policies and procedures a large majority of the time, okay? So they're not going to recompensate you guys. And it's very scary stuff because we have, in an ideal fashion, 24 hours to stop this. And the second step, the other challenge is getting the money back. And those are two extremely, extremely difficult things to do. One is to stop this transaction, and the other is to retain the money back. We've been successful with this, but your averages are very low percentage-wise of doing that. So
Kevin was one of the first in Dane County to successfully do that. Because Kevin's a nerd. Kevin loves this stuff.
So, anyways, if this happens, notify law enforcement immediately, notify your bank immediately, and one of us will get called in to work on this right away for
Yep,
you guys,
even in
okay?
our off time, absolutely.
And we got that approved by our bosses.
Yep, he said it just yesterday.
Typically, you're seeing this money being sent overseas or sent to what we call a mule account. Basically, they recycle victims and they utilize this suspect account that you sent your money to. That's actually the victim of another fraud. And I'm not going to go into it deep. Our goal in these situations predominantly is to freeze the assets in the transaction and to retain that money back. Identifying the suspect is important to us. However, getting you guys your money back is what is most important to us.
Victim-centered approach now because most times they're overseas.
Correct. So, screen your communication. Don't ever do it. I can't stress that enough. Don't. I've had this conversation
Don't
with my
wire any
parents, my
money.
grandparents.
Just
Don't
don't
wire
do it.
money, okay?
Don't do
If
it.
you choose to wire money, see if your bank has an insurance option that you have with that transaction. Otherwise, probably your cashier's check, whatever it may be, is going to be your safest route to go with making those major purchases and transactions, okay? And again, contact us immediately in your bank. Mortgage fraud is typically linked to wire fraud. Worked several mortgage frauds. Again, you're dealing with a tremendous amount of money, most of the time upwards of several $100,000, and they're typically usually getting it in a wire fraud. So suspects will pose as a representative from the company, bank, insurance, title company that the victim is legitimately working with. They will utilize a fraudulent email address, utilize the signature of whatever company that it may be, and communicating with this individual as a representative of that company, when in generality the email address does not match it. So if you have a Gmail address and you're working with a Stark Realtor company, red flag, okay? So check those email addresses to see if it makes sense too. One, identify if it's something that you're comfortable with, but two, identify if that email address is indicative and it's going to be linked to that company. Stark Realty is probably not going to talk to you over a Gmail address, right? So just utilize those, take a minute, look at that email once again, and just try and identify, is this legitimate, okay? But again, they're going to give them step-by-step instructions. Hey, to avoid any issues with closing. Everybody wants to avoid issues with closing, right? Like, everybody wants that. Wire this money to this account, and we'll be able to close by this date. And that's the same thing that we're seeing is these people think that they're buying a home, and then all of a sudden they're out hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's very sad. The suspect is going to receive a large amount of money, and they're going to immediately move that money to another account that they have, whether that's another mule account they have or an offshore account. It's very, very difficult to do much. That's why we emphasize if you or anyone you know sends money in this type of scheme or anything like that, or a wire scheme, please, by all means, contact the police department immediately. And again, one of us will get called in, and we'll see what we can do and try our very hardest to help you guys, okay?
Yep. Even on the weekends, we are on call 24/7 here in Oregon.
Yep. So you can skip past this. So cryptocurrency, has anybody ever heard of cryptocurrency? It's a mess. It's an absolute mess right now. It's one of the most challenging things that we're facing as law enforcement is try and keep people safe with cryptocurrency scams. We have been hit by this immensely within the past couple of months.
Yes.
It's very challenging. It's Peer-to-peer basically means that they can send it to one person. There's no regulating agency in certain types of cryptocurrency, so there's no one to monitor that transaction to be like, this is suspicious or this is fraud. So that's some of the challenges associated with it, and that's some exchanges, not all of them, okay? But it's most commonly going to be utilized by fraud suspects. A couple different types that we have on here is how many people have been at Quick Trip lately and see that they do Bitcoin ATM there? Right. Concerning. Yeah. So you know, there is no legitimate purpose for Bitcoin ATMs. Not that I'm aware of, and again, this is what I do. This is what I'm fascinated and passionate about. I have yet to see a legitimate purpose for an ATM, a Bitcoin ATM. So if you hear or see or been told, put your money in a crypto ATM, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it, okay?
Our supervisor told us recently the state of Wisconsin is looking to pass legislation to ban these ATMs because they're just used in fraudulent schemes. Yeah.
So I think we're taking proactive measures to try and mitigate people's exposure to that. But again, for the time being, it's something that's very prevalent, you know, so it's scary.
Yeah.
Other things that we see are romance or relationship schemes, which again, these are typically more than likely associated with the organized criminal entities overseas. In themselves, they are very long, drawn-out frauds. They develop personal relationships, whether that's a friendship or a partnership with somebody. It's a long game, and it'll start out with them meeting somebody on a website or something like that, or on Facebook, social media, and then they'll say, hey, you know, why don't you talk to me on WhatsApp, because it's that encrypted chat platform. And then they go to the encrypted chat platform because they know that only the sender and the receiver can have access to that communication there. And they say, hey, you know what, this is my house, I just bought this, it's beautiful, multi-million-dollar house, and you know, I love my life, I get to travel all the time. And the person naturally asks, well, how can you do that? Well, I invest in crypto. I have my uncle, he's a crypto investor. You want me to invest some of this? Let's start off with a small amount, and then they eventually go into what we call investment fraud and pig butchering. So what this is, it's an investment scheme. And they'll utilize, it's basically like you're buying stocks in layman's terms, and you're buying crypto. And what the suspect has done is they've now tricked this person into investing extreme large amounts of money, basically all their livelihood, all the equity in their house, all their retirement accounts, and they create a fraudulent trading platform on an illegitimate website to show this person, look, in the past 30 days, your profit is 25%. You should invest more. And it's just this cycle. So then they max out credit cards. And then, so once the victim's like, okay, like that's enough, more than enough money that I can live comfortably with the rest of my life, I want to cash out. When they go to cash out, then the suspect tells them, well, you have all these other, you have these withdrawal, fees, but we're going to get you your money, but you got to pay 25 grand to withdraw. So then the people, and that's why it's called pig butchering, is because they leave nothing left.
Yeah.
And it's extremely sad. And again, we've worked these, and it's very sad to see. But that's just kind of pig butchering in a nutshell right there. So again, it's an extremely challenging thing for us to navigate right now. We are in the process of doing a lot with it, increasing our training and education in these capacities, not only ourselves, but our prosecutors at the district attorney's office too. So this is something that Nydia and I have taken a very proactive approach on, is to try and educate ourselves to the best of our abilities on, but also having meetings and conversations with prosecuting attorneys who will support it. We have very unique financial laws in the state of Wisconsin, which makes things challenging for us to work within the parameters that we can. So that's something that we're fighting through, and challenges that we're kind of encountering. Also, this is so new where no agencies basically have policies and procedures to deal with these types of investigations. So that's something that our agency is taking proactive approaches to try and develop solutions to those things, to evolve with the fraudsters here, okay? But again, this is a work in progress. Nydia and I have been passionate about it, and it's been received very well. So we're on the right track here in Oregon, okay? Again, don't use it if you don't understand it. if I were talking to my mother, I might be having a different conversation, say don't use it, but it's, if you don't understand cryptocurrency, and I'm going to be entirely honest with you, I don't understand all the intricacies of it. Don't use things that you don't understand, right? That's the biggest piece of advice that I can give to you guys here too. So if you don't understand it, don't do it. If they're telling you to go over encrypted platforms, or if you meet this person on a social app of whatever means, be skeptical about these things, because this does happen and it's very real, and it's happened in this community. Okay, the suspect will want you to do all these things. Again, that's pig butchering in itself, kind of going back on that, and then the Bitcoin ATM. Don't use Bitcoin ATM scheme. If you get any notification about crypto investments or Bitcoin ATM, call us, because we track all this information too. Because at some point in time, we're going to have to receive more training. We want to continue educating you guys and being the best service that we possibly can to you, but we have to document these things, and we need to make sure that we're taking proactive measures to try and protect you guys, okay? So please, report it and tell us. Even if you don't lose money, report it and tell us, okay? Anything?
Nope, that's good.
So again, these are, just last thing there, these are extremely time-sensitive situations too. These are 24 hours things, if we're lucky. So this is something that Nydia and I will get called in for too. So again, if it happens on a weekend, I don't care what time of day it happens, report it to the police department immediately. Phone calls will be made to us, and we will come in, we will attempt to freeze it, and then we will attempt the process of seizing the money back from the coin exchange if we can. And then we will go about things in that capacity to try and get you guys your money back, okay?
A good indicator for a lot of these scams too is, say you're married, hey, don't tell your spouse you're doing this. It's a big red flag, but they do that a lot. So pay attention to that too if you hear that.
Yeah, if someone's telling you not to tell anyone about it, red flag, right?
Red
There's
flag.
lots of times you read that pops up on the screen
Mhm.
about don't turn off your computer
Mhm.
and call this number to Microsoft, and the first thing I do is shut it off.
Yep, shut it off. Yep,
Shut it
shut it
off.
off.
There you go.
Unplug that thing for a little
Yeah.
bit too. Let it
Yeah.
breathe, okay?
Yeah.
But no, that's excellent. That's very good. Very good. That's a great safety measure that you can take. So again, your safety considerations in general, guys, are the communication aspect. Again, if you don't communicate with this person, then basically you mitigate your exposure exponentially. Other things that can happen, yes, but also that's kind of life in general, right? Decrease the likelihood that you'll be victimized is cease communication with these individuals, okay? Phishing, don't click on links or attachments, whether it's a text message, email, whatever it may be. Don't click on unfamiliar links. Leaves yourself susceptible to a lot of things, with people taking over your computer, whatever else it may be, okay? Personal identification information, don't ever give it out. Go about it the right way. If you need to consult with, either us, if you have a question for us too at some point in time, please, by all means, give us a phone call.
Yes.
We can definitely give you some insight to the situation too. Just don't ever give your personal information out. If you're making online purchases, I would highly suggest picking a credit card company with excellent fraud protection, and just navigate carefully when you're on the web on what you're buying, okay? And if something sounds it's too good to be true, it's probably just that, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I don't know how many times I've won the lottery. I don't know how many times. Yeah, I'm still here.
The
How many?
public clearinghouse one, I'm
Yep.
sure you've heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Too
Yep.
good to be true.
Yep. You win prizes, or you win whatever it may be, or you have an investment opportunity, or you can buy a Ferrari for 50 grand. It's just not going to
Retire in
right?
Florida? No.
Yep. So
Stay in Wisconsin.
again, contact us whenever in doubt. I would rather have a conversation with you guys and just get to know you a little bit and tell you guys, hey, based off Nydia and I's training and experience, this is most likely a fraudulent attempt here. I would proceed with caution. I would suggest you not to have any further communication with this individual, okay? And that's totally fine. We will field those phone calls
Yeah.
every day.
And our patrol guys are getting a lot better on it too. They can
Mhm.
field questions for you as well. If you
And-
call the police department, you most likely will get a police officer,
Mhm.
and they can help you out. If
Yeah.
they can't, they'll direct you to us.
And we've done our best to keep our patrol staff informed of these phenomenons that are going on in the financial world here. But also our patrol officers, they're very intelligent people, but they're also not afraid to ask questions. So they're not afraid to come to Nydia or I or ask us, hey, this is what I have, what do you think here? And we're kind of third hand giving them our, insight on the situation too. So just because you don't get to speak to us directly, that doesn't mean you don't speak to us, or it doesn't mean that the officer doesn't know what they're talking about, okay? So again, monitor your accounts, your bank accounts, social media accounts, keep those private. Don't give your phone number, email address out freely or anything like that. And Nydia and I have compiled a resource list for you guys that we plan to hand out right here after this presentation. I would like you guys to just kind of take a copy if you'd like, review it. It's going to give you guys a lot of steps to empower you guys. If I didn't bring enough copies, I will connect with you and I will get you more to make sure you have those. But it's very very thorough and way too much to put in a PowerPoint presentation for you today. Okay. Questions? I know that's a lot, and yeah.
Okay, you keep talking about some of these have to be within 24 hours.
Yes.
So what, is it that phone number regardless of when, and will that meet that 24-hour?
Absolutely, so you can always call this phone number. If we are not here,
It goes through the county?
the county will dispatch police officers.
Yes.
And they will do it in a timely fashion?
Yes, they will.
Even though it's not a 911 situation?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you've ever called the line after hours here, you have to stay on the phone line because it's going to connect you to Dane County Dispatch. Okay, so stay on the phone. They'll talk to an officer. The officer will know to contact a supervisor, who will know to contact our supervisor to contact us.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll happen pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I have two things. One is when you buy something online and it asks you if you want to save the card, never save it.
No.
Because if someone hacks into your computer, that's the first place they go to, is that place
Yes.
where those saved credit card are.
Yes.
And then, could you explain what Bitcoin is?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm gonna do it in layman's terms here, okay? It's a form of virtual currency, and every single type there's a ton of different types of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is what it's called, okay? It has different values with whichever coin that it is. It's one of the most complex things that I've ever come across as a police officer in my career. But basically, the idea behind it is there's a couple different kinds there's centralized and decentralized. Centralized is more regulated, has to comply with stricter financial laws set forth, put in place in order to approve transactions. So if Nydia wants to send me Bitcoin, it has to go through a miner, what they're called, is basically to evaluate the transaction for it to go through. Decentralized cryptocurrency, which is a large majority of the time what we're seeing individuals defrauded by, that doesn't have to go through as extensive financial laws and regulations as well as miners, and there's no third party kind of monitoring and evaluating those transactions. It's an anonymous platform, so if you ever have cryptocurrency, and I didn't touch on this and I want to, you're going to get a transaction number, a receipt. Save that because that is what we need in order to do what we do, okay? There's people that are much, much more intelligent in this state that are called cryptocurrency trackers. Our job as detectives is to project manage it, give them that transaction number that you guys have on your receipt, then they tell us where the money goes to, and then we do what we do. So I wish that I could sit here and explain all the intricacies of cryptocurrency with you. I would love to share what I know.
I think you would really enjoy that too.
I would, yeah, I really would. You would have to tell me to stop talking, but no, I mean, in layman's terms, it's a virtual currency platform where the values kind of vary, and that's why people tend to try and invest in it.
Just don't do it. I wouldn't do it either. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And be careful there. They're after people. I got one year and a half ago. My brother passed away 14 years ago. And he's now buried in Berlin Cemetery by my mother and dad. No, he's not. I know where he's buried. But I've been through this and this and this, and they want money to take care of that grave and vet, and they sent me a picture, a map of the thing, where it is.
Yeah.
There's nothing over there.
No.
And I said, I said, no way.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said, it's scary.
Well, good for you,
I
yeah.
know where he's buried, because I buried him,
Right.
and it's not in Verona.
Yeah.
And I said to them, at the bottom is they want money to maintain this lot over in the cemetery?
Mhm.
Uh-uh.
No, no.
That's another one
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that
Well,
I think is scary.
Yeah, I'm sorry that they have to, but you were right on top of that.
Yeah,
You
I
did
know.
exactly what you were
I
supposed to
said,
do.
no way, I'm not sending you any money.
Good for you.
And dropped
Would
it.
you address the issue of people losing their houses through fraudulent means, where people have,
Yeah, so again, I don't know if I could provide you with enough accurate information on that, and I don't want to tell you something that's going to be wrong. What I can tell you is I've seen and witnessed people go through immense financial hardships as a result of some of these schemes. What the recourse of that is, I don't know. Once the investigation goes through and set in place, my job is to investigate that. It's very rare that I ever receive follow-up from an individual informing me, Kevin, I lost my house, I lost everything that I have now. That doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I can certainly tell you that it does. As far as me having direct communication with someone who's suffered a large financial loss, such as any of the ones that I highlighted there, haven't been informed of one. But I can assure you that it causes immense financial hardships on them, and it affects their quality of life. And it's very sad, and that's why we're so passionate about these types of crimes. If you were to speak to a normal, regular detective, a lot of them, they don't really want to deal with financial crimes, right? So I view it as of vital importance because I know how important my job is and the financial portion of it that supports my family is. And so I try and put myself in their shoes to try and help them deal with whatever they can so that they can sustain their living and still support the people they need to support. And that's why we were so driven to communicate with our supervisors, to which they agreed with us, is if these types of transactions happen that are time sensitive, call us in because we can help preserve the quality of life that our community members have. And that's exactly why we want you guys to contact us right away. I don't want to have a good answer for you on that,
I just want to make a comment about banking. So certainly we talked about work with a loved one to set up your automatic payments. Well, some people may not have somebody that they can work with for the automatic payments, for the online billing and so forth. If you're working with the right banks, they will sit down with you and go hand by hand to help you get those set up. So, if they're not willing to do it, you're not with the right bank. Let me just say that, just retired. So, and then the other thing is, don't get upset with the tellers or the personal bankers if they're quizzing you about a transaction you want to make. You're happy about that. That means they're looking out for you and your neighbor, right?
Good tip.
So certainly here people get antsy in the lobby, and really I've heard them stop a number of different frauds. So they're doing what they're trained to do to protect all of us.
Absolutely.
So,
What was your name, ma'am?
Michelle.
Michelle, thank you for that
Yeah,
insight
from Lake
on
Ridge
that.
Bank.
Yeah, Lake Ridge Bank, yeah. Work with them extensively, good
Yep.
bank, yeah, nice
Yeah.
people, but no, by all means, yeah, she hit the nail right on the head there, yes.
There was a sad situation that I saw where the person still had a landline, so they didn't have any way of identifying who was calling, and so they would answer the landline all the time. And it was the friendly person from their favorite charity, and this person just kept sending check after check after check to this, because they would call them all the time with the, how are you today, we care about you, and blah, 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 until finally their daughter figured it out. But so the friendly person on the phone who's asking how your day is going is, no.
Usually out for something, right?
But
Usually
yeah.
out for something.
Caller ID,
Yeah, yeah.
It is sad. We had a victim recently who retired, has to go back to the workforce because he lost a significant amount of money. That's sad. And we're trying to prevent that. So let us help you, and then please help others.
She's got an example on her phone that she's
Yeah,
wondering
may I?
if it's legit or not. Will you look at it and tell her?
this isn't
It
to do
used
with
to
the
be
bank.
called charter, now it's called.
I have this and it came on Saturday.
So I can tell you right now, this is illegitimate. Okay. Yeah, it is, so, don't open it, don't communicate with it. There are ways that you can delete it and everything. But also, if they just don't open it, so anytime, this would be a great example, and I wish that I could get a large screen here.
Well, when it came on Saturday, especially,
Yeah,
I didn't even,
no, and what's your first name? Marge. So Marge has an excellent example right here. It's a text message in the form of an email, which is a huge red flag in itself. I actually got one of those this morning on my personal phone. And what it is, it's someone posing as a representative from the DMV. But she's getting that text message on a Saturday. Is the DMV open on Saturday? Right, so you guys are doing a great job. And if you're ever unsure, give us a phone call. You know, we welcome those conversations and everything like that. But Marge did an excellent job by not opening that, not responding to it. So great job, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did your email want? What did the person want?
It just, so we didn't open it. So that's one of the things is we don't want to open it, right? Because then it could leave us susceptible to other breaches. So what it said is it's a person from the Wisconsin DMV coming in on a Saturday night from an email address put in the form of a text message. Scam, fraud. All right? Any other questions? Thank you guys for having us. We
Thank you for
appreciate
your
it.
time.